Today we are going to be working on activity 3.1 titled Investigating Matter. We are going to use menthol in a large flask, and we're going to heat this menthol as well as cool it to determine what happens to the menthol once heated and cooled. So the menthol comes in a bottle that looks like this. In class, you saw little bottles of menthol that looked like this. And if you notice, you should make some observations of the menthol on the bottom of the flask. What do you observe right now as the menthol is still at room temperature? So describe your observations of the menthol in the flask. And then for question 2, predict what do you think will happen to the menthol as you heat it on a hot plate. So I've got my menthol in the container already. I'm going to turn on my hot plate to warm it up. And then I have my ice cube on the top on a watch glass. So we're going to see what happens to the menthol in the flask as we heat this. So pay close attention to what's happening. So right now our hot plate is on, and we're warming up the menthol. So you should notice a change happening to the menthol in the flask right now. So if you notice, our menthol is melting. So it's going from a solid to a liquid. We're going to continue heating this. And you should notice something happening to the flask at this time. I'm going to hold this black paper behind her to see if that makes a difference for you. See if you can see anything happening in the flask right now. So at this point in time, the menthol has disappeared from the bottom of the flask. And if you can see this, there's something happening inside the flask as you watch. If you can't see on the video, there are some fumes in there. We can see some vapors floating around. There looks as though there's something forming on the upper part, middle part of the beaker, or the flask, sorry. So there's a lot of vapor inside here as the menthol continues to heat. I'm going to turn the heat down now. And we're going to let the flask start to cool a little bit and see what happens as the flask cools. I'm going to remove the hot plate from the flask to help it cool a little bit faster. Try not to burn myself while I do it. If you notice, there's definitely something happening inside the flask. Let me put the paper here again so it shows up a little bit better. So hopefully you can see that vapor inside the flask swirling around. And just lean this up here for a moment. You'll notice the vapor has started to slow down. So you should be describing what you see happening as it's cooling. If you notice, the ice cube on the top on the watch glass has been melting, so we know there's a lot of heat in there. So now I'm going to help this cool a little bit faster by removing the watch glass from the top. And I'm going to put a stopper in the menthol to help keep it from smelling too bad in here. Now if you notice the bottom of the watch glass, it has something on it. So this is also menthol, just like what we had in our flask to start with, except a much smaller crystal. So you can see from the side it's got a little thickness to it. And as this cools, you should notice something up here at the top of the flask. And if you pay attention, you'll notice it's doing something right now along the side over here too. So that's what it started to look out as, crystals like this. And now you can see what's happened in our flask. If we wanted to spend another 5 or 6 minutes waiting on this, we would notice that our final product ends up looking like this flask. So you should notice the difference. So this is the flask with the hot menthol that we just heated up. This was what the menthol looked like in the beginning. This is the menthol as it's cooling. If we sit and wait long enough, this will end up looking like this flask. This was one that was done prior. Notice on the watch glass, we had the ice cube on it upside down like this on the one that we heated. And then the ice cube provided a cool area so you can see that our watch glass, we have some substance there too. So that's our demonstration for today. So would you please continue to complete pages 20 and 21 in your book. Thank you.